Hey, folks, David Brody here for All Israel News in Washington, D.C. So a couple observations this week regarding JD Vance and President Trump, and we'll get to the president in a moment. I know he would be disappointed that he's not the lead, so to speak, in terms of what I'm talking about, so my apologies in advance. But let's talk about JD Vance for a second. He said a couple of things this week that were a bit, what's the word I want to use? Probably disconcerting. First of all, he talked about how, and I have it right here, the actual quote, he said, Benjamin Netanyahu has, quote, gotten some things wrong. Okay, so a couple of things. If you feel that way, wait for it now. You might not want to say that in public. Why exactly? Because, I don't know. You've got the Islamist regime there in Iran listening to every word coming out of this administration's collective mouths. And the fact that you're going to say that Netanyahu's gotten some things wrong, you might imagine that the Islamist regime is salivating when they hear that. Look, the truth of the matter is that is not something you want. You want no daylight between Netanyahu and Trump. And of course, we've seen plenty of daylight between the two. And I get it. You know, they're in this together. They're working, as best they can. And Israel and the United States together to kind of ultimately affect change there in Iran. But having said that, to me, it's an unforced error by the vice president. He doesn't need to say anything about Netanyahu doing some things wrong. Yeah, guess what? Join the crowd of people who think Netanyahu has done a few things wrong. We don't need the vice president of the United States saying that when Iran is listening intently. It just emboldens them and makes us weaker in negotiations. That's one thing. He also said that he believes, and he said this multiple times in interviews this week, that he believes the Iranians are operating in, quote, good faith. Really? I don't think that's true. And that is me being very nice about it. They're not operating in good faith. This is what the Iranians do. They string Americans, the world community, the international community, they string America along all the time in these negotiations. This has been the Iranian playbook from day one. JD Vance knows this. I mean, obviously he knows this. So why would he say the Iranians are operating in good faith? I think, once again, it's because they're trying to strike a deal. They are desperate for a deal, and they want to show good faith, if you will, to the Iranians because, let's be honest, they're desperate for a deal. America is desperate for a deal. And so they're trying to kind of, I don't want to say placate or appease, but they're trying to kind of, get Iran to a better position. So it's all negotiation. I get it. But at the same time, are they operating in good faith? Look, absolutely not. Once again, weakness when you're saying those type of words. And look, as for President Trump, and here we go, I know I should have led with you. I apologize, Mr. President. I get it. You wrote the book, The Art of the Deal. Great book. Have you done so many deals? Yes. I think, what's it up to? 8.25 or however he keeps his math exactly as it relates to the deals that he's doing. But the truth of the matter is that this has not just become 3D chess or 4D chess. This has become, apparently, at least the way I see it, 19.5 chess. I mean, I have no idea what in the world he's trying to do here. And maybe, he's got it all figured out. And this is the big long-term strategy that I can't figure out because I don't have a brain. But the reality is I do have a brain, okay? And here's the truth of the matter. It is very clear to everyone in these negotiations, this deal ultimately, that President Trump and this administration is desperate, I say, to get out of Iran. They don't want any more of it. They want gas prices lower. They want a better midterm result. But forget the midterms for a second. President Trump doesn't want to be saddled with Iran, and he wants out. It's just that simple. The problem here all along has been you're not negotiating with Switzerland. You're not negotiating, so to speak, with like some sane European country. And though there are a few still left, I guess, but this is not normal negotiation, right? This is with an Islamic regime who believes that if they die, they win. In other words, they think that if they die, they're going to heaven and getting 72 virgins or whatever they think. Here, newsflash, they're not. They're going to hell, unfortunately. But this is what they think. So the way the Iranians see it, and I'm talking about the Islamist regime, I'm talking about Iranians overall, obviously, but the way the Islamist regime sees it, they win in life, they win in death. If they die, hey, they get their 72 virgins, they think. Newsflash, they don't. Or they live and they've outlasted the Americans. Because guess what? The truth of the matter is Iran has read the playbook. And you know what the playbook is called? It's called Vietnam. And they know exactly the deal here, is that Americans do not like long wars. Americans have a short appetite for war. I mean, who wants war? However, over in Iran, bring it on. They were built for this. This is what they do. So with that in mind, you're never going to be able to negotiate with them, whether it be in good faith or not. And I personally think the way this is going to go, I say personally, from an analytical perspective, I think there's probably two scenarios, and I'll just give you the one that I think is going to happen. I think the main way this is going to go is that there could be a deal. But what is the deal exactly? The deal, let's be honest, is to talk more. That's pretty much what the deal is going to be. In other words, we're going to stop and we're going to have a ceasefire, though the ceasefire that's in place now is the weakest ceasefire I've ever seen. But they're going to stop and then they're going to talk more about the nuclear program. That's the deal, to talk more. It's not much of a deal, the way I see it, because they haven't agreed on anything. But let's just say, and go with that. So they strike a deal, and then guess what? 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever the parameters are of the deal, at that point, guess what? America will be faced, this administration will be faced with another choice, which is, Iran is once again delaying. They're not living up to what they talked about 30, 60, 90 days ago. And now we have to finish the job, because ultimately I think that's what it's going to come down to. I do think President Trump has the, dare I say, cojones to do exactly that. He should finish the job. And I think it's going to come to that, but he's going to be dragged kicking and screaming to it. I mean, he doesn't want to do it. That's the truth. And he started it, but I don't think he wants to finish it, because I think he thought that the big knockout blow would have started with Operation Midnight Hammer in July with the Iranian nuclear sites. Then Operation Epic Fury would have been the final blow to say, bring them to their knees. And they're saying, white flag, white flag, white flag. The truth of the matter is the Iranian Islamist regime is doing no such thing. And so this was not as planned for at the beginning. I think President Trump and this administration thought Iran would surrender by now. No way are they going to surrender. And so what do you do now? You have to finish the job, and that could be power plant and bridges day, if you know what I'm saying. All right, David Brody here in Washington for All Israel News.